lot of pirates. How many pirate legends do we have in the room? Oh, wow. That's yeah. I'm not a pirate legend, but I did spend 5 hours trying to get the skeleton throne on Marauder's Arch, so I feel like I count. My name's Chris. I run a video games website called GamesIndustry.biz, but more importantly, I also host a podcast for Rare. Today, we have the privilege of hosting the Tales from the Tavern live from EGX. I'm talking about the making of Sea of Thieves. We have an amazing panel. We have studio head Craig Duncan. Yeah. Community and community video manager, is that right? Jon McFarlane. Executive producer Joe Neate. Design director Mike Chapman. And senior designer Shelley Preston. Hello, everybody. I can't believe it's 6 months since Sea of Thieves launched. The game feels quite different to how I remember it back in March. Is this how you imagined the game would look today, 6 months ago?
Joe, you should take that one.
Kind of. Like I think what we always imagined from a community and a player perspective, and the stories and the emergence and the richness and the creativity of all of our players, like that was what we always dreamed for Sea of Thieves, and I think that has played out in the way we expected. So all of the people here that are playing Sea of Thieves and posting stories on Reddit or on the forums or sharing screenshots or videos of all these amazing things, like the people yesterday who used snakes to defeat a skeleton fort, right? I don't know if anyone saw that, but they literally just piled them all up on a skeleton fort and lured the skeletons, so they killed them just with snakes. Amazing. But so from that perspective, absolutely, and I think it's exceeded our wildest dreams, right? But then when it comes to what we planned to add to the game after launch and then where we are now...
I think that's it. I think the biggest change, and it is crazy to think it's only been 6 months. I mean, it feels a lot longer in some ways and it feels a lot shorter in another way. But I think the order is very different to what we would have expected. I mean, before launch, we had a vision for where we wanted to take the game, certainly in the first 6 months to a year, and that's panned out fairly differently, I would say, in terms of what we've done. I think... given enough time, even with that original plan, we would have done what we've done the last 6 months anyway. We've just rejigged that order based on the feedback, which is the most important thing for us, not only to make this unique game, but to build the game in a unique way. So in many ways, we've done what we said we were going to do, which is listen to player feedback and adjust our plans accordingly. And that's exactly what we've done, and that's what we'll continue to keep doing.
You mean we tore up all of our post-launch plans a day after we
I didn't want to be so
launched.
dramatic, but we did literally tear up all the plans, didn't we? Like a couple of days after launch. Yeah. And then we all got into a room for what felt like a long time, probably a week, and kind of redrew what the rest of the year looked like. And that's the plan you're seeing coming to fruition now, and we're still on that journey.
I have to say as well, like, as much as we had our vision for Sea of Thieves, bringing everyone together and creating this new type of multiplayer game, and we believed in that vision, seeing it actually come into reality, like seeing all of you here today, like it's still really humbling and still amazing for us.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, just looking at the demographic and just the people in this room, I was lucky enough to stand outside and hear people tell their pirate tales and, chat to a couple of our kids players. With 12 rated, by the way, but it's okay. Just turn the proximity chat down. It's fine. Right through to, I know a lot of people in here have made friends, and I think as a creator, that was always the thing that I think was our dreams, that, people would, it would be a game that connected people and made people, find friendships and find community, and just to see that play out and hear the stories, I think is incredible.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with... I can't remember who it was now, as we were queuing up, around a family that plays together. And this game resonating with young children is something that we would have dreamt about all those years ago. When we chose pirates as the theme for this vision that we wanted to kind of give to players, that was something that we wanted, that would bring players together. And you'd play with your family and you'd be role-playing together. That aspect of the game was something that we felt so strongly about. To dream it and then actually have it in reality is quite surreal. So yeah, we're thankful for everyone who have that part of the game resonate with them. It's incredible.
It must have been quite a steep learning curve, though. So what have you learned, sort of as a collective, as a studio, since the games over the last 6 months?
Let's begin.
I think, like, launching a game as a service like this that we're going to continue updating and growing and everything, like, we've learnt so much, right? And I think more recently we've learnt that, you know, our intent since launch has been to add as much stuff as we can and get stuff into the game really quickly and everything. But, you know, we've learnt recently that sometimes you can go at kind of a bit too quick a pace, and you can introduce bugs into the game that kind of, you know, cause regressions and cause issues, and or even we can miscommunicate. And like when we brought the barrel inventory system in, we didn't tell people it was coming, we didn't tell them why, and so like trying to find the right rhythm and the right pace is still an ongoing thing for us, and very much feeds into our ongoing plans moving forward about getting the right time to test the builds prior to them going live, and the right time to test with pioneers and to get feedback on things. So like that's been one of the most recent learnings for me, like, because we were all like literally the mantra kind of at launch and beyond, like, was let's just get more content to players, let's add, let's grow, let's just enrich in the game as much as possible, because we heard that feedback. But you know, we can't do it at the expense of the build stability and at the expense of communicating properly and stuff. So that's quite a fresh, recent one, I think. So yeah.
I think like one of the other things that's been key to since launch, we've definitely amped it up, is we've always had this thing of being open and transparent. And I think since launch, we got onto that thing of, initially it was you guys in front of that whiteboard in your office, like as we...
My favourite video, that was. Sad Joe.
Thank you, no one memeing that and writing something else on the whiteboard behind us.
There's still time.
But then it was getting into that rhythm. Like I remember, like now it's getting in every Tuesday morning. We get you up into the tavern and get you sitting in front of a dev update, and just making sure that no matter what we do, no matter what the situation is, it was being open and transparent. And I think that really, even very recently with the Forsaken Shores moving a week forward, we've seen just the kind of gravitation of positivity even around that, about people supporting the idea that, you know, we're making sure we're taking the time now to do this. And I think, like, rather than just kind of cower back and say we moved it forward, we're not going to tell you why. It's been about that.
Yeah, and I'd like to say thanks to everyone, assuming everyone here was supportive and positive. But genuinely, like, when we do make changes like this and we communicate them out, like, broadly the response is always supportive and it's positive and it's understanding, and that helps because we're humans, right? Like, literally, like, we struggle to make those decisions. We struggle to go, like, I want to get it all in. I want to do the stuff, like, you know, with Forsaken Shores, Shelley's the designer that's been heading that up, and we've had those conversations leading up to it about, like, this is coming in, it's a bit risky, but it's like, no, let's keep pushing and stuff, right? And because all of our intent and all of our passion as developers is to get all the content out there that we can and make every update as rich as possible. And so whenever you make a decision to change a date or to move something out or whatever, it's hard for us. But to have a community that's so supportive, it really helps us as human beings, as professionals and everything, right? So.
I think the biggest thing for me is just that mind shift of we're building the game, but the game is out. And it sounds like the simplest thing in the world. But to Joe's point, you just want to add content into the game as fast as possible. But it still takes time for features in the game to reach this kind of natural balance and equilibrium. You can't just upset everything and it throws the balance out of whack. You've got to make sure that you iterate on it, you balance it properly before you put it in the game for a live audience. And I think sometimes we have to almost fight against ourselves to almost just get it in there. Like, it's what we've always wanted. We finally got the thing we wanted. Just turn it on for players. You've almost got to practice that restraint. And I think the example you gave with the barrel example, that was such a fundamental change, which is, if anyone doesn't know, I'm sure you do, but that was a change to our fundamental inventory system. So rather than just taking items from a barrel, you now kind of open a UI. So it's a little bit different, but it was built with scale in mind. A big change to what players have got used to. So all of that muscle memory and how you get used to playing a game and everything becomes second nature. We'd made a change to that, and we needed to do that, but we could have done a better job about how we communicate it. Just being aware of the fact that it's always live. People are living and breathing this game 24/7, and you've got to communicate the vision for where you want to take it proactively rather than reactively. And I think that's a big lesson we've learned since launch and very recently.
It's been a Well, I'll talk about Forsaken Shores because you just mentioned it there. I'm delighted that you did delay it because I've been here all weekend, so I have a.
That's why we did it, just for you.
Thank you, Shelley. What do you think actually out of all the changes? It's a big update. All the changes that you're making, what do you think will make the most fundamental difference to the game overall?
Within Forsaken Shores?
Well, Forsaken Shores, what the changes in Forsaken Shores are going to make to the overall Sea of Thieves?
I think there's a lot actually coming in Forsaken Shores, and I think all of it will have an impact on the way that you kind of relate to Sea of Thieves and how you play your adventures. So, like, Forsaken Shores, the Devil's Roar being this new volcanic like region. So every threat that you've had up until now, you've had players, you've had AI, but you've never had the world itself turning against you. You've never been on an island looking on the horizon, there's no one around, you can dig up your treasure, everything looks safe, but then like everything starts to quake and the earthquake's happening, the volcano's going to explode, and where did you like park your ship? Can you get back to it in time? It changes the way you play. Like, we've been playing it internally a lot recently, right? And we really are having different adventures. We're thinking differently. So all of the kind of natural disasters, all the things that happen within the Devil's Roar will change the way that you play those quests. But then we also have the rowboat, which fundamentally changes everything in Sea of Thieves, because everything that you could do previously, you've now got this rowboat as well. You can decide to just, like, I've seen lots of people saying they want to just row around in the rowboat, leave their ship behind and do their quests. And of course you can do that. And people want to load it up with gunpowder and go on like gunpowder missions, or like, you know, row up to enemy ships and sneak aboard. Like, all of these things that you can do, the rowboat will really, like, we had, like, back in the prototype days, someone giving rowboat tours, and, you know, on your left you'll see Smuggler's Bay, and all of these really creative ways that people are going to use it. So I think that will have a huge impact as well. And then, of course, like later in Forsaken Shores, when cargo runs come in, it's a whole new way to play the merchants. So rather than just going after animals, you can now like take these cargo missions on, carry this cargo that has gameplay with it. You have like plants you can't see while you're carrying them. You need to keep them watered. Like, we were playing those yesterday, right? Filling the hull with buckets of water to try and keep them. We were crying with laughter. We were at Greg, like falling off the ship while he was trying to carry the plants around. And so I think like everything in Forsaken Shores is designed to impact the way people play.
We really felt there was a gap missing in gaming of watering plants as a mechanic, didn't we? We really felt there was a space that we could fill.
Joe didn't have the vision to see that, but we convinced him that it was important.
I think one of the things that's really interesting on this game, and it relates to Forsaken Shores, and the question at the start around what did we envision the game to be in 6 months' time? And I think it's less about the actual mechanics, like we're adding a rowboat or we're adding cargo runs. It's more about the way you represent those ideas in Sea of Thieves. And I think going back many years, I think Devil's Roar as a name has existed for years now, since the start. We always liked the idea of a volcanic region that you could sail to. However, the detail of those mechanics, like geysers that erupt and throw you up in the air, and you're adventuring with your friends and you're using the geysers to destroy the skeletons, that's just that Sea of Thieves touch on what is admittedly a simple mechanic. Like, just yesterday we're playing the rowboat in like fits of laughter, like tears streaming down our face. And there's so many ways we could have implemented the rowboat, but when you're in there and everyone's sitting down in first person and you're just the person rowing and you've just got three faces of pirates sat down staring back at you, there's so many times when we, like on the design team, we look at each other and we're like, that is so Sea of Thieves.
Because people say, well, you have a sit emote, so let people just stand in there and just sit, and it's like, no, you have to press X, sit down properly, and have this slightly uncomfortable, like quite too close to each other first-person view. And it just makes you smile. It's just the Sea of Thieves way. Like, everything is a little bit silly and a little bit fun.
Yeah. And things that don't initially seem like they're even a good idea. Like the plants in the game, they're almost double height, so you pick up the crate and the plants are just waving in front of your face. So you're almost like trying to look through it as you're trying to move forward. So other people are watching your footwork as you try and get this crate and hand it in. And that's just so silly. It's such a silly idea, but that's the Sea of Thieves DNA. It's something unexpected that surprises you, and it's just something that generates that laughter.
Well,
we've designed it and we're there like crying with laughter at it.
You know when you're laughing at the idea, right? Like, we prototyped that by putting a big board in front of one of the TVs, like taking up 2/3, and then we had three of us playing and one person had to sit with the board and try and find their way, and you're just laughing, you're just having fun, and you can see the communication that it brings out in the crew where you're telling people, careful, careful, you're about to drop off the jetty. And like, you know when you've hit on that feeling, that fun, that like just creative bonding between the crew as well. Like, you know that's a Sea of Thieves touch.
Well, outside of Forsaken Shores, what is everyone else working on? What are you doing?
I'm still working on Forsaken Shores.
What are we working on? Maybe. But there's lots of stuff. And so Andy in the corner there, who's now hiding, but is actually heading up something else that's in the to come for the future we haven't yet talked about. That's very exciting and brings a real kind of game-changing thing to Sea of Thieves. But we're not quite ready to talk about that stuff yet. But like, that's one of the things that I'm most excited about is what that team's working on. They've got a nice long lead time so that they can deliver something that's like truly kind of monumental, I guess, for want of a better word. But like, I'm very much looking at, like, ironically, how we talk about what's next. As like literally that's the conversations I'm in and everything around, because we've had the 3 announced updates. We're about to release the third one, and then it's about how do we talk about what's next, when do we, and in what way, and everything. So whilst also still getting the kind of the next builder adventure out and building in that testing time, so we get our release process right, so we can test with pioneers, we can make sure it works, we can get builds out and keep everything stable and safe. That's very much my kind of priority as EP.
I think for me it's 2 things. One, it's following Joe about like waiting with bated breath to see what he decides so that I can then react to that with whatever trailers or videos we're going to put out for what is next. The second one is about probably weekly streams. So we just started those about 4 weeks ago now. Yeah, we've had 3 of them so far. There wasn't one this week, just with the Forsaken Shores thing moving, but that's something we've had since the very beginning. We talked about how streaming and content creation was a big thing for the game. We always knew we wanted to make a game that was as fun to watch as it was to play. And we saw right at the very beginning, at launch for us, just this massive uptake on Twitch and on Mixer and YouTube of huge amount of creators out there creating content. And then we got to this point now and we're kind of like, we want in on this. So we started just recently streaming. I think we've got like bold ambitions about where we want to go with it. We start off like weekly. We're doing Tuesdays 5 till 7 again. Plugging it for this week coming. So tune in then if you're around. But yeah, we want to take that like further. We want to like try and engage creators. I know we've got like Shea in the audience there behind us, who's basically he was on like the last stream that we did there, and so we want to get creators involved wherever we can and get people from ideally in the future getting people from our community into our streams as well, and get everyone involved and stuff. So that that's really what we're working on, the schedule for that moving forward as well. I
particularly enjoyed my first stream being the one where we had to build with the spyglass plugin. That was great. I really enjoyed that.
And shouldn't you be actually making a video now about the next stuff that's coming?
Well, handily.
Oh, have we not got a deadline for that?
Well, you've been doing lots of stuff with the community generally. What's been some of the highlights of the last month?
Me.
Shelley's like, we're just getting close. I think the very fact we're here, actually, and I've said this to a couple of people, is due to some of you in the room. We weren't actually planning to be at EGX, which sounds terrible because we're in the UK and we're just down the road and there's no excuse. So I'll take that one on the chin. That's my fault. But I just think we were inundated with it, and I think Chris has got a few requests as well. So literally, and this is no word of a lie, about a week ago, last Friday, Chris is like, hey, you guys should come to EGX and do a thing, which then involved me adding these guys to the email thread going, hey, can we go do something at EGX? Like, people keep reaching out to us, we should do something. And there was a general, like, yes, like, we should go do something. And I'm like, yeah, Chris, we should go do something. And then it was like, oh, we've got a slot, 2:30 on a Saturday. We better find out quick so we can post it on our channels and actually, or else no one will be here.
Not been a problem.
Awesome. But yeah, so I think it's, we, as Joe mentioned earlier, we feed so much off our community, and we're so kind of lucky to have an amazing community. So you're the reason we're here. So thank you for badgering us to be at EGX. Like, if you want something from us, badger us, hold us accountable for it.
And on Twitter, that's the account.
and I'll just tag Joe in anything that needs work.
So, Shelley, what are you working on? Did you answer that question?
I said I'm still working on Forsaken Shores. But rest assured, we're always cooking up cool stuff for the future.
I think it's a mix of. At the moment, I've got one foot in the day-to-day of the stuff that I guess we're planning out now, with Shelley and Andy, but also kind of looking forward to some of the stuff that Joe talks about, which is, if you think about like the last 6 months and what's coming soon, it's all about enriching the game for everyone. So enriching that journey when you're out there in the world, there's more things to go and do, there's more things to go and engage you. Beyond that, we've got some kind of longer term features that we're working on that are a bit more fundamental in that they change the game in a more fundamental way. So they're a bit more longer term, but we've kind of got a view on where we want to take the game. So my head's split in 2 areas right now.
I've noticed there's so many people in the room, and I'm sure you guys have got questions. So if you're thinking of a question, I'm going to ask one more, and then I'm going to open it up to you. This is more broadly about life at Rare, because a lot of you have worked at other places before, and I'm interested to know, how does Rare compare? Is it as unique as it seems to us on the outside?
I don't know. I've been there for 13 years. It's like, I think I lucked out. I turned up at Rare at like 21, and it's the best place ever to work. And hopefully I'll work there for the rest of my life.
I'd agree with that. I think we've talked about this before, Chris.
Yes, I
but
know.
the perception of Rare as a player, obviously that was my reality of looking in, the chocolate factory, wanting to work there. I would say that the reality is exactly that. And I think Rare's this unique place where it has this storied legacy now going back over 30 years. So it's this mix of people that have been there for that length of time and people that are there because that history has had a fundamental effect on them. And it's been the reason why they've wanted to get into the games industry, and it's the reason why they've sought out Rare. I mean, that's my story. I grew up wanting to work at Rare, and to be there on the other side now with people that are as passionate as I am. And I think Rare's got this unique location. You know, we're this British studio with this great history. I think it's a very unique feeling place with a fantastic culture that's always changing. But if I was going to put my finger on what I value about Rare the most, it would be that Rare's done so many different games that all those IPs that have touched people and people want to see more of. But Rare's got this ambition to do things that haven't been done before. And as someone who wants to create things, that is incredibly empowering. The fact that you come to Rare because of those games, but you want to do something different. You want to put your mark on the industry. And I think that's what Rare's there to do. And that's the reason why it's a thrill to wake up every morning and go into that studio.
Yeah. And so I really agree with a lot of the stuff that both of you guys have said, but I think that because we're Rare, you feel like this really kind of cool independent studio, like in the middle of nowhere, but with these amazing grounds. It feels like a Bond villain's lair or something, right? As you come up the drive, that's kind of what you feel like you're approaching. So I guess Craig's the Bond villain in this in this analogy. But you have the backing of an organisation as big as Microsoft, right? We're part of Xbox within that, and the support that Microsoft gives to Xbox and the support that Xbox gives to us is incredible. So you can do something different and you can do something new, and you can take those risks, right? And for us to set out with the ambition to create a new type of multiplayer game that didn't do the same thing that other games did, and tried to drive different things, tried to drive interesting human interactions, tried to drive friendships, and tried to drive really interesting stories and moments. Like, we get the opportunity to do that, and to have that kind of opportunity and the backing and everything else, and it's incredible. It's like nowhere I've ever worked before, and so it just feels like it's a place where you can take as many risks as you want, and it's like we should always be looking at what risk can we take, what new thing can we try, and see if it comes off. And even if it doesn't, that's okay. We should be able to take risks, right? And so so the culture at Rare, and it should be that. It should be try something different, but do it as a team and support each other, and that's what it feels like for me. That's what makes Rare so special.
I think beyond the game and the studio itself, for me, it's just the people. The people is really what make Rare, and about how we think about our players out there. Everyone has just this player headset. They're just constantly thinking about what are our expectations for our players out there, and how can we possibly do more for that? And it's seeing that constant like drive that you say, and just you get this really great bond more than anywhere I've ever worked with people, because you're all so like-minded. You're all after that same goal. Like, no one that seems to be in it for themselves. It's all about like that same goal that everyone's driving towards. And it's like, and I'm a kind of people person, and I'm so grateful for like to be here representing everybody that's back at the studio, because I know everybody back there would love to be in this situation as well, like, and being and seeing this amazing sight of everyone.
Well, there's actually a bunch of them here, aren't there? Like, who's here from Rare? Yeah. Like, there's quite a few like in the crowd as well. So they're actually here like watching and listening, right? But that's the passion that the studio has for the game and for the community and everything, right?
Absolutely.
I don't even know how to top any of that. Yeah, I mean, we have an incredible team. We're hiring for those game developers, wannabe game developers. And I think, just echoing what everyone said, I'm lucky enough to do the job I do. I get to manage a great team of people in an amazing studio. I fortunate enough, I get to regularly speak to Phil Spencer and Matt Booty and the people that run gaming at Microsoft. And really echoing what Joe said, it's always, what are you guys doing? How can we support? And there's just this, passion for Rare as fans, as colleagues, as stakeholders, as people that are just passionate about gaming. And I think a lot of the things we've done at Rare, I think, stand for the same values that we have at gaming at Microsoft and Xbox. It's about community. It's about bringing people together. It's about creating amazing experiences for our players. So, when I have those conversations with Phil or Matt or any of the leadership team in Microsoft, that's always the thing that comes through, and that's why they've got a huge passion for what we do as well. So, I mean, it is the Rare team. It's the Rare team here, but it obviously takes a small army to launch a game like Sea of Thieves. We have teams in Redmond that support us. We have all of our subsidiaries all the way around the world that have dressed up as pirates on launch day and did events. And so it is, we're a global company, but we're lucky to be the independent, plucky, English, crazy people that are kind of having fun as we do it. And we get well funded to go do that and achieve results as well. So it's a great position to be in.
Right. Do we have any questions? Oh, we've got one at the front.
A technical question. Firstly, thanks for making such an amazing game, first of all. But currently, Sea of Thieves has a limit of 6 ships per server, 24 players, doesn't it? And I remember in one of Joe's videos, he said you kind of came up with that number, which, because it was like, you don't want it to be like a boating lake, you don't want it to be empty. So it's kind of a nice number. But with the launch of Forsaken Shores, expanding the world by like a third, do you have any plans in the future, maybe not for Forsaken Shores, but later down the road, to expand maybe the maximum number of ships to maybe by a third to 8? I know obviously there's server optimization and things like that. But
It is exactly as you just described, and it's good that you've noticed with the expansion of Forsaken Shores, it is a third bigger.
that was on the internet somewhere.
There you go. The world was designed from the ground up for those 6 ships in the world, that based on the frequency of encounters between players and the amount of kind of engagement that we wanted between them. It is something that, whenever we've been asked that question in the past, like, how many ships do you have, we've always tried not to answer it with a number, because it was designed for experiential reasons. It's not about a technical limitation. It's about what's the right number of people in that world, where you can come across one person, they disappear over the horizon, and you come across them again, and you can have a revenge story or not. That's what that thing is there for. With the world expanding, we will continue to look at that. There is some stuff coming relatively soon in terms of the work we've done with the skeleton ships. Right now, they're in the world now as skeleton battles, but that we want to extend that. So the skeleton ships play more of a presence in the world. So in the short term, that is what's going to fill that gap.
Okay, thank you.
But the density of the world is something that we'll want to keep maintaining.
Who's next?
Yeah, hi, nice game. Been testing the game since alpha, been in the first 1,000.
Wow,
Absolutely
thank you. Amazing.
Loving the game. With Forsaken Shores coming out next week, going going into the alphas and things like that, a lot of the issues were involving scale, especially with, you talked about, day after the game came out, you basically screwed everything up. Majority of that was full scale. With the
Nice way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. But I apologise, but
Yeah,
you understand what I'm saying. I apologise if I put it in a bad way. It wasn't meant like that.
So I did.
With Forsaken coming out, would you, one of the things, the things that I think were needed in the game was the ability to invite your friends to the same server that you're playing on. Was that something that you would consider in the future? Do you have any plans on that already?
Definitely consider it in the future. It's definitely one of those things that makes sense, right? Like we totally know, really engage people, especially as the more you play Sea of Thieves, the more friends you make, right? Like that's the that's the design.
Have a vote on that when you've got people here to actually have a vote on it.
But indeed. But like we know that it's something that people want, and it's definitely in our future plans. It's just a question of when that we bring that in. At the moment, the very much the priority for us has been add kind of new content, new things that enrich the journey, enrich the world, new ways to play. And so that's something that really speaks to, I think, really engage players, which is obviously really cool and stuff that we want to support. But our focus has been about let's enrich everything for everyone, right?
I mail Joe about that one every now and then as well.
He does. He wants it. He wants it a lot. So yeah, you've got a powerful ally.
Got a gentleman here.
Hello there, guys. Just want to know, when's the next kind of equipment we're going to find? Or is it a fishing rod? And out of the equipment we already have, what is your favourite equipment?
Well, first bit is that there's 2 still free slots on those radials, so we'll fill them. We'll fill them one day.
Yes, I noticed that.
Favorite piece of equipment? I'd probably say the concertina. So I think it represents what Sea of Thieves is in a nutshell.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
It's a little bit sullied as of late. No, I mean the spyglass is great. You feel like you pirate when you're in the crow's nest and you're using the spyglass to spot ships. It feels incredible. But the concertina was a mechanic we implemented very early on. It was in our early E3 demos, and it was, I guess, at the time a symbol of how Sea of Thieves was different. That at the time we didn't have in the E3 demo. At the time we didn't have blunderbusses or pistols. We just had people boarding other ships and playing music together. And like the concertina is just that great symbol of Sea of Thieves, of bringing people together and the music harmonising when they play together in that pirate band. I still love it to this day.
I assume we're doing round table. I think the grog for me is synonymous with what is Sea of Thieves. Putting grog is synonymous with pirates, and you want to put it in the game. It's like, what does it do? Does it give you a health boost? Does it take your health away? It's like it just makes you drunk. It just gives you that silly fun that Sea of Thieves is, and brings you together as a crew, breaks the ice as a crew. Like so many little social dynamics happen because people are drinking. Like Mike's crashing into things, but that's not just when it's had grog. That's just all the time. It's really bad on the wheel. But no, I think the grog is just a small example of distilling Sea of Thieves' unique sense of humour into one little tankard. No.
You have to do a lot of prototyping and discovery for the design stuff, right? So yeah, like for me. Actually, this answer changes all the time. It really does, in terms of what my favourite mechanic is. But the one I'm using a lot more lately is the sword lunge, which is an accidental mechanic that basically our community discovered, right? That you can stand on the side of a ship and sorry. Yeah, dolphin diving, exactly right. Amazing. So, but that's the thing. It's like when we put mechanics in, and there's kind of accidental things that people can do with them, and it turns into a thing that everybody does now because it spreads through the community. And so, that's probably one of my most recent favourite ones, just because it's like you say, to see the dolphin diving where people are literally using the sword lunge, diving into the water, and then swimming really fast to jump out and jumping over boats and stuff it's just amazing. So but there's so many because all of the mechanics in there can be used in so many different ways, right?
Yeah, I think for me, I think everybody in the studio knows I like to talk. And so the speaking trumpet in that makes my voice louder is going to be, and go further, is definitely going to be a benefit. But yeah, I love I love role playing in Sea of Thieves, so I love just getting that out and chatting to any ship that goes by and hope they'll chat back to me.
Are you okay with Chris hosting this panel? Are you okay? I think for me, in 2 reasons for this answer. So Mark that has asked the question there actually built this chest. Yeah. So big round of applause, Mark. That's awesome. And I actually love the chests. I love what we've done with them. And I remember, and I don't think I've ever said this to you, Shelley, but I remember coming into one of the meeting rooms one day and watching Shelley and Andrew literally arguing aggressively with one of our coders and one of our production people about why it was more important that 2 people digging up a chest at the same time was an absolute critical feature that must be in the game. And this other person was going, but like one person can dig it up, the other person can wait. Like it's like twice as much work to make it work in all of the combinations of multiple people. And I think, again, it just, like, one, it just shows the passion that they both had for one of their ideas, not unusual. But also, just, again, that social mechanic, that everything in Sea of Thieves is a better mechanic shared with people. So, that notion of digging something up together, while it might seem like a superfluous thing, you've probably all been there on islands where there's a number of you trying to do something in a hurry, and just how important that tiny detail is to just the whole undertone of the game. So I think the chests and just the way the chests work and some of the cursed chests are my favourite for sure.
The funny thing, I just thought of this actually, is whenever you're digging up a chest like that though, like you're doing it together, I always try and be the person that picks up the chest, like, because I'm really competitive, and then I'm like, but I don't want to carry the chest. But I just want to be the person that presses X first. Yeah. Every time. And I've only just realised I do that.
Who's next? Oh, do we have any on the back? No? No? I feel sorry for the people standing at the back. Oh.
None of the rare team are allowed to ask questions.
Right, Charlotte's coming with the microphone.
Hello, there's always one. What is the update on pets? And also the mystical, magical, heroic Captain Cato pet. We got his bowl, we need him now.
So pets will be coming to Sea of Thieves. We've always been very clear about that, and it is part of our kind of post-sale monetization plans, right? Like that. That's what we're doing. So we've been in discussions around that, and I think Shelley's going to be kind of heading that up again from a design perspective with the team. So it's coming. It's not coming super soon, but it will be coming to Sea of Thieves, and they're going to be awesome. And you're definitely going to be able to fire them out of cannons, right, Charles?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And I don't know if will we have to get Cato to sign some kind of disclaimer with like a paw print or something to get him into the game. I'm not sure, but yeah, I think we've got enough dogs now to do like a rare calendar, haven't we, or something like at the studio?
Cannot be confirmed as a feature, but it might happen.
What's next for us guys that have already hit Athena 10?
Yeah, so it's really hard to keep up with you guys, isn't it? As we said, like probably the start of just after launch, we kind of said that we wanted to add content for everyone first, which obviously we've been doing, but we knew that we couldn't neglect Legends and Athena 10s for too long. So there are some things coming soon. So new things both to go and aspire to unlock, and also new ways to get there. So new quests essentially for Pirate Legends. So not tomorrow, not like in a couple of weeks' time, but we're planning them out now. So we're well aware that as more players are becoming Pirate Legends, more players are going through that Athena progression, and we want to give new quests and new things to unlock. So that's coming soon.
Next. Oh. So many options. Yeah, we'll go to this.
All right, guys. So my question, I already spoke to Jon about it. It's great to see new expansions and all these new content coming into the game. But is there ever a plan to revisit maybe at the end of the year or the start of next year? New base game updates, extra voyages, extra dungeons, stuff like that. Just like around, is it a reason that you don't want to touch that because you fear it might break the game too much, or you just want to leave it until later on because you want to add features instead of more to do in the base game?
I think I'd just say they're they're more fundamental changes. So we hear the feedback that players like encountering megalodons, they're going to love sailing into the Devil's Roar, but the actual fundamental core loop of the game of going out there on a voyage and returning, when is that going to get richer? And it will. It's just going to take a bit more time. So more reasons to go out into the world, and the path you take to get there being fundamentally different, whether players are there or not. So changing that core loop, giving you more quest variety, that is something that we are looking at and we are actively working on.
Yeah, you can ask Andy about that afterwards. Yeah, what's that?
I was looking at Andy at the corner of my eye as I was answering that question.
But I think some of the stuff that we saw just coming in with Forsaken Shores is cargo runs, right? That's that kind of first step in that enriching the merchant.
About cargo, and I could talk about plants all day if you want. Talk about watering plants again. Yeah, obviously, cargo runs gives you that entirely new way to level up inside the merchant. So for people who maybe they don't particularly enjoy the merchants, or maybe they've had their fill of the animal missions, there's another way to level up inside there on your journey towards Pirate Legend as well. And it's just one of the things that, as Mike talks about, we'll just be adding to that journey of how you get to Pirate Legend. But those are the kind of fundamental changes that we'll be working on, as we're also doing these incremental changes as well.
Because the word fundamental is the key, right? If you make a fundamental change to anything, it's going to take time to do. And so, because if it's completely new, completely different, a completely kind of step change for something in Sea of Thieves, it's going to take time to design, to figure out, to prototype, and to then build in, to then start testing and stuff. It's just that's the reality of kind of games development, right? So, we want to bring as many game-changing things to Sea of Thieves as we possibly can, and continue to do that, right? But it's the reality of games dev. So.
Yeah, and it was interesting the timing you mentioned as well. I mean, we've been out 6 months. I think literally the community team made that tweet the other day, which in some ways feels like a really short amount of time, in other ways seems like forever. But I think what you were saying around timing was interesting. Hey, maybe once you've been out a year. So we're actually starting those conversations now. What does a year celebration of Sea of Thieves look like, and is there something there that we want to tie to an update or an event or so? And again, none of that is locked yet, but it's definitely conversations we're having.
An event. When are we going to do Rarefest, Craig?
Rarefest.
Yeah.
Sounds like we just greenlit it.
We have a question down here.
Apart from the pets, do you have any more animals you're going to add for the cargo runs or the merchant voyages?
That is a good question.
And now I'm really sad that no, not at the moment. But I mean, the animals that we've got have added life into the world, and when you go onto the islands, it's really cool seeing those animals. And we did think about in the Devil's Roar, do we want to add some new animals? But it kind of felt a bit wrong because they would be surviving this really harsh volcanic environment, just like these little pigs trotting around while these volcanoes are going off. So I think pets will be the next time when you see animals come into the game, but never say never in the future.
There might be some interesting variants of animals coming in a while.
Joe, you are in leak mode today. Oh, yeah. I'm proud of you. Yeah. Really proud. Don't let me give it away. No, I think it relates back to the previous question as well, which is all of that thinking of what happens when you're in the world, which I guess is the kind of content that we've prioritised so far, versus what's the thing that gets you out in the world in the first place. That's kind of the voyages. It's all part of our kind of thinking over the next year. We've prioritised making the world richer because that, in absolute isolation, that's the thing that makes Sea of Thieves special. So being in different contexts with people that have been brought together for the love of this game, and you're having all these emergent scenarios because we've added new flags, we've added new creatures, we've added kind of new time-limited events. They're the things that we're prioritising because that's the thing that makes Sea of Thieves special. At the same time, more reasons to be in that world, more reasons to explore, more reasons to put a voyage on the table. That's something that we are looking at as well.
Right, I think we only have time for one more question. I'm afraid. Charlotte's at the back.
Hi, just want to say thank you so much for creating the game. I'm here with 4 of my friends that I met through Sea of Thieves, and we met for the first time today.
Awesome, that is so cool. Love that story. Love it.
However, I would just like to ask, would you ever be interested in taking off the safety mode for your crew? Because these guys are pretty greedy, and I would love to kill them just once.
That took a turn.
That did take a turn, didn't it? Good luck, everyone that's with her, by the way, today.
We have some production jobs open right now. That's a good skill you've got there.
While we don't have an answer for this one.
While they're debating creatively, Liz from our community is actually running a prize draw where if you want to come up at the end and write your gamer tag on a post-it note and put it into this bucket, there'll be a draw made in our community on our channel. So kind of either come and do that at the end, or if we get all pushed out, we'll be outside afterwards. Okay. Have you guys got an answer now?
No, I'll just design something.
Right here. This is a big exclusive. Actually, on that question, believe it or not, that's actually where we started in our early prototype, where people on the same crew could hurt each other. And it was as manic as you'd expect. So every single session, you'd get that treasure and you'd have a cutlass in the back every single time. And it was amazing. It was like nothing you've ever played. The problem was it happened every single time. So you'd never...
Probably you're trying to pick up the chest. Yeah.
It was everyone. Some people more predisposed to it, obviously. But like it happened every single time. So after it happened for the 50th time, you'd still think it was great. 100 times in, you'd be thinking, okay, how can we make sure the crew effectively bonded together? So that's what we have today, where it's the crew versus everybody else. It's the crew versus the world. In the future... ways that crews could become cursed, or changes that could happen on a quest, or particular cannonballs that could make crews vulnerable to hurting each other. That's a possibility. We loved it when we had it in the game, and we just want to find the right way to introduce it that makes sense in the world, but it may well happen in the future.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Big hand for Craig, Mike, Joe, Shelley and Jon. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the show.